Hey Dragon Slayers, today's video is all about how to become more fat adapted. It is a scientific fact that there is zero requirement for carbohydrates in the human diet, meaning there is no such thing as an essential carb. You will not die if you never eat a carbohydrate again. Shocking, I know. But the reality is you do need glucose at all times just to stay alive. Your liver can make all the glucose you need out of protein. But this is a little bit more difficult than just eating all of your glucose, especially giving glycemic carbs 8 times a day for 16 hours a day, every 24 hours, like the average American. In theory, shrinking down your carbohydrate frequency sounds great, but it can be very difficult, especially to the uninitiated. Trying to meet all of your energy needs in a low glycogen state, running solely off of stored body fat and some glucose created by your liver out of protein is the metabolic equivalent of jogging or any other type of exercise. And just like exercise, it is a lot of work when you first start out. Neophytes often notice low energy levels, decreased exercise tolerance, and general fatigue and brain fog. You have two options when you embark on a reduction in glycemic quantity and frequency. The first option is just diving in headfirst, embracing the suck, and powering through 1 or 2 weeks that it takes to get through the majority of the discomfort. With the caveat that it could be months before you have the same athletic capacity that you had before in a carb-loaded state. The second option is to gradually progress your reduced carbohydrate frequency little by little. If you do choose to slowly progress this ability, he highly recommends that you start with breakfast. Try and see if you can eliminate carbohydrates from breakfast first by replacing them with protein-rich foods such as eggs, meats, or plain Greek yogurt. At this point, you would continue eating carbohydrates for lunch and dinner. Once you are comfortable with this, start whittling away at lunchtime carbs. Take the bread off your sandwich and wrap in lettuce, and be sure to double your meat and cheese, increasing the protein so you aren't hungry. And last, it's time to go for dinner time carbs. And in fact, if you never get rid of those and only ate significant net carbs once a day, you'd probably be fine for the majority of people. Most people could reach adequate fat adaptation with this degree of carbohydrate restriction. In fact, many people struggle to achieve energy satiety every day unless they eat at least around 100 grams of net carbohydrates. Evening is usually the largest craving for these glycemic carbs, which makes sense as they do trigger the parasympathetic state, which is rest and digest. If you are going to continue to eat these carbohydrates, please feel free to do so, but be sure to keep the protein high at this meal. And in fact, we recommend eating protein first. There are a number of studies, mostly performed in Japan, looking at the timing of protein, vegetables, and carbohydrates, rice with meal times. These studies showed that eating protein and vegetables first and rice last at the same meal leads to higher satiety and improved outcomes. The reason for this is likely due to the satiety hormones from the small intestines, which are beyond the scope of his book. But let's just say that your grandparents who told you to eat dessert after dinner were really onto something. A few final notes about fat adaptation. Exercise is phenomenal for improving fat adaptation. If you're performing a ton of glycemic exercise at very high intensity that burns mostly glucose, you might not have to worry about reducing carbohydrate frequency. There are also genetic factors at play here. Some people are perfectly well fat adapted despite a high carbohydrate diet. We are happy for these people, and most of the advice here is for the rest of us. As with everything else, when it comes to diet, the only person who really knows what works best for you is you. So don't be afraid to try things and see what happens. And that's what I've got for you guys today. Don't forget that you can like and subscribe. And remember, you can support me on Patreon in the link below. And together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.